man who described for police investigators how Simone Collymore, wife of popular businessman Omar Kymore, screamed as he and a crony sprayed her and a taxi driver with bullets.
On the 2nd of January 2018, a 32-year-old woman met a tragic end in Red Hills, St. Andrew, Jamaica. She was shot and killed along with the taxi driver Winston Walters. Authorities later identified the woman as Simone Collymore, the wife of a United States businessman named Omar Kymore. The shocking details are that Simone was shot about 21 times while traveling in the taxi towards her home. Investigators revealed a plot, that the shooters were contract killers hired by none other than Simone's own husband. It seemed their relationship had taken a dark and twisted turn, leading to this calculated act of violence. Multiple men had been monitoring Simone's movements before the fatal ambush. Omar Kymore, her husband and others involved were eventually arrested, and the shooter, Wade Blackwood, received life sentences for his role in the incident. This is the story of Simone Collymore, a 32-year-old woman, a loving, caring, and trusting woman who fell deeply in love and married a manipulative con artist. Her husband, driven by greed and a desire to be with his mistress full-time, betrayed her in the most horrific way, plotting her murder for insurance money. Before we begin, we want to express our heartfelt condolences to the family and friends of Simone. We also hope this story serves as a powerful reminder for everyone to be cautious about whom we let into our lives and whom we place our trust in. This story will take us to the St. Andrew, Jamaica, which encompasses parts of Kingston's bustling capital region and extends to more suburban and rural areas. Known for its vibrant culture, economic activity, and historical landmarks, it also grapples with crime challenges, particularly in certain neighborhoods. Crime rates in the area reflect issues such as gang activity, property crime, and violence. Despite these challenges, the region also boasts strong community resilience and ongoing development aimed at improving safety and quality of life. Simone Collymore grew up in a loving, supportive household, enjoying outdoor adventures and expressing her passion for cooking whenever she could. After graduating from Myrtle Grove High School in 2002, she attended Nova Southeastern University and worked briefly at Kaplan Higher Education in Florida before returning to Jamaica in 2010 to launch her business, Oin & Company. Those close to Simone describe her as a thoughtful, genuine soul with a gentle spirit and warm smile, who cherished family and love above all else. In 2009, while working as a professor at Kaplan, Simone met Omar Kymore, a student advisor. Sparks flew, and the couple married in May 2010. Moving in with her parents initially, they soon purchased a home in Florida. Omar quickly bonded with Simone's family, even sharing clothes with her father. Within 2 years, they welcomed 2 children, Oin and Odin. But Omar had a different agenda. He sought wealth and, entangled in an affair with a woman who demanded more, began distancing himself from Simone. By 2017, their relationship fractured as Omar moved to the Forest Ridge apartment complex in Red Hills, St. Andrew, leaving Simone desperate to reconcile. However, by December 2017, events took a darker turn. By the way, we post true crime stories and strange cases. If this interests you, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support means a lot and helps us continue sharing this content. Omar had a cunning plan to lure Simone into living with him, thinking it would make it easier for him to orchestrate her murder. Without hesitation, Simone agreed to move in, unaware of her husband's sinister intentions. It seemed Omar had a pattern. His trademark move was to have his wives take out substantial life insurance policies, making himself the beneficiary, and then ruthlessly eliminating them to gain possession of the payout. Simone was deeply in love with Omar, and when she committed to something or someone, she was determined to see it through. She was hopeful that Omar wanted to restore their marriage, but tragically, that was not the case. Meanwhile, the other woman in Omar's life was growing suspicious and had decided to end their relationship, unless Omar was truly single. Omar, however, was not willing to let her go. He had invested heavily in her, taking her on lavish overseas trips, providing startup funding for her new ice cream business, paying her rent, and catering to her every need. Desperate to keep this woman in his life, Omar later told her that he was filing for divorce, promising they could be together soon. In the next year, it became clear that Omar had no intention of filing for divorce. Instead, he had concocted a far more sinister plan. He would murder his wife Simone and claim the insurance money, just as he had done a decade earlier in Florida, USA, and gotten away with. The prospect of being able to be with the other woman full-time only served to accelerate his twisted scheme. Meanwhile, Omar continued to play Simone, knowing full well that she was deeply in love with him. He meticulously tracked her movements, constantly checking in to find out when she was leaving work and when she would be arriving home. He even went so far as to ask Simone multiple times to check on the status of her insurance policies, and blatantly inquired if he was still the beneficiary. This glaring red flag, coming at a time when he had seemingly decided to reconcile with Simone after months of her pleading, should have set off alarm bells. But tragically, Simone was blinded by her love for this charming, handsome man she called her husband. She was fully devoted to him, unable to fathom that the very person she trusted the most could harbor such a sinister plan to take her life. On January 2, 2018, Simone kissed her husband and 2 children goodbye as she headed off to work, planning to stop by the children's school to pay their fees and then take them to the countryside for a day of fun before the new school term began. Little did she know, the flat tire she discovered on her car as she left the parking lot was no coincidence. Omar had punctured it the night before, part of his carefully orchestrated plan. This would be the last time she would ever see her children, or they would see her alive. Later that day, around 3:30 p.m., Simone spoke with her husband one final time, just before leaving work and again as she neared their home. Omar had already been in contact with his primary hitman, Michael, whom he saved in his phone under the name Chris. The plan had been set in motion the night before, with Michael and his team positioned near Simone's home. However, as time passed, their patience began to wear thin. When Simone informed Omar that she would be leaving work soon, he immediately texted Michael to update him. Michael, who was already stationed outside Simone's workplace with his lookout, Dwayne, spotted Simone getting into her taxi. He then relayed the information to Jim, another hitman in the area near Simone's apartment, along with Wade, who was also waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Michael informed Jim that the target was en route in a blue Toyota Corolla. After a brief conversation with Simone, Omar learned that she was nearing home. He quickly sent another message to Michael, telling him that Simone was now in a taxi and to go ahead and carry out the plan. This was not their first attempt, though. 2 nights earlier, on New Year's Eve, Omar had sent an urgent text to Michael, asking him to hurry because Simone was in a black Mercedes-Benz heading to church in Duhaney Park. Unfortunately for Omar, that attempt had failed as well. Omar paced nervously, his weeks of careful planning coming down to this moment. Meanwhile, Simone sat unsuspecting in the taxi as it approached her gate, completely unaware of her fate. Suddenly, 2 motorcycles pulled up alongside, and before anyone could process what was happening, tragedy struck. The attackers unleashed a storm of bullets, shattering windows and tearing through both Simone's upper body and the driver. While Simone screamed in pain, the driver was instantly silenced as a bullet found his head. Following typical hit job protocol, they emptied their weapons to ensure no survivors. Jim, positioned on the driver's side, first took out the driver before turning his gun on Simone. Wade, from the passenger side, focused all his shots on their primary target. As the gate began opening and they turned to flee, Jim suddenly stopped, with Wade following suit. They needed to grab Simone's bag to make it look like a simple robbery, just as Omar had insisted. Meanwhile, Omar was busy fixing Simone's tire he'd sabotaged last night, his daughter beside him, when chaos erupted. Residents fled screaming from the pool area after hearing gunshots, a sound completely foreign to this upscale gated community where such violence was unheard of. About a minute after the commotion, Omar called Michael to confirm Simone's fate. Michael promised to call back, but Omar's impatience led him to call again just 3 minutes later, receiving the same response. Unknown to Omar, Michael wasn't actually at the murder scene but waiting for confirmation from his hired killers. Omar then rushed outside, putting on a show of distress and tears upon finding Simone struggling to breathe, covered in blood. He lifted her into the police car and climbed in beside her as they sped toward Kingston Public Hospital. The officers heard him repeatedly asking her about the man she'd been with and begging her not to die. Later, the autopsy revealed devastating details. Simone had sustained 19 shots to her chest and abdomen, with fatal damage to her right lung, liver, and kidney, leading to her death within minutes. The taxi driver, 36-year-old Winston Walters, had taken 5 bullets, with the headshot causing immediate death. It was later revealed in court that over 2,000 phone exchanges between the conspirators. During just 1 month, from early December 2017 to early January 2018, Omar reached out to his hired killer, Michael Adams, a staggering 1,095 times, while Michael called back 797 times. This intense communication showed their meticulous planning of Simone's murder. Most disturbing was how many of these calls happened minutes after Omar spoke with Simone. Her unwavering trust in her estranged husband, despite their separation and his reluctance to reconcile, caused her downfall. She had no idea that every time she updated her beloved husband about her whereabouts, he was relaying this information to her would-be killers. Pure evil. Omar thought he'd crafted the perfect crime, even puncturing Simone's tire the night before to force her into taking a taxi, making it seem more like a random robbery than a targeted hit. But his plan revealed due to his hitman's sloppiness. After the shooting, they returned to grab Simone's handbag to stage the robbery, not realizing her phone inside would lead authorities right to them. Security cameras outside Simone's apartment captured the entire murder, clearly showing Wade's face. When questioned, Wade quickly confessed and accepted a plea deal to testify against his accomplices. The truth came out that Wade had been a reluctant participant, forced into the hit because his imprisoned brother owed Jim, the local crime boss, for a gun. The gun police had seized from Jim, the second shooter, became Wade's burden when Jim forced him into the hit to settle his brother's debt. During the trial, Wade revealed a telling moment.
Omar Kymore, the man accused of the contract-style killing of his wife and her driver 2 months ago, is still without an attorney, weeks after he was charged with double murder.
When Michael introduced him to Omar as the trigger man, Wade asked Omar why he wanted his wife dead. Omar just gave him a cold stare, saying nothing. No wonder Wade eagerly testified against him. Once Wade exposed Omar as the mastermind, investigators uncovered everything through phone records linking Omar to Michael and the others. Voice notes, text messages, and Wade Blackwood's damning testimony helped prosecutors prove beyond doubt that Omar orchestrated Simone's murder. On May 15, 2024, justice was served. Omar Kymore, 41-year-old man, was convicted of conspiracy and murder of his wife, 32-year-old Simone Collymore, and taxi driver Winston Walters. He received life imprisonment with 46.5 years before parole. Contract killer Michael Adams got life with 42.5 years before parole, while lookout Dwayne Pink faces 32.5 years before parole. Shaquille Edwards, who backed out before the murder, got just 1 year for conspiracy. Wade Blackwood, sentenced to life with 35 years minimum in March 2021, saw his term reduced to 20 years for testifying. Jim, the local crime boss and shooter, later died in an unrelated police incident. While Simone's family grieved at her funeral, Omar heartlessly tried fleeing to his home in the U.S. Fortunately, authorities arrested him then. The prosecutor's closing argument laid bare Omar's deception to the jury, who signs an insurance policy 6 different times in July 2017, then claims total ignorance about it? It's disgraceful. This wasn't some basic policy, it was substantial and identical to his wife's. You've gotten to know Simone Collymore through her voice notes and texts during this trial. Can anyone honestly believe she never discussed her policy details with her husband? Can you believe the insurance manager never reviewed it with Mr. Collymore? Do you actually think he's being truthful claiming he knew nothing about it? Using scripture, the prosecutor compared Omar Kymore to a guilty man fleeing when no one chased him. On January 27, 2018, while his wife's funeral was happening, this man boarded a plane. When I asked if he knew it was his wife's funeral that day, he had the audacity to say no. This is your dear wife, the one you claim to protect and love dearly. Even divorced couples know when their ex's funeral is, especially with shared children. When I asked where he was going, his answer was telling, I was going home. While your wife lay in a casket and your 8-year-old and 5-year-old mourned, where exactly is home? What could be more important than being there? What Omar Kymore orchestrated in Jamaica, land we love, on January 2, 2018, he thought he could just walk away from. The prosecutor continued, members of the jury, watch this man who testified for 2.5 days about his dearly loved wife, forcing 5 fake sniffs and dramatically wiping non-existent tears. If that's not pure theater, I don't know what is. December 2017 was crucial. Simone finally moved from her parents' house to live with Omar at 5 Stanley Terrace. She didn't even get to spend one peaceful month alive under his care. Isn't it strange how on January 2, 2018 at 2:30 a.m., Mr. Collymore claims he returned from parties and discovered his wife's flat tire? When have you ever heard of both you and your mother's Mercedes getting flat tires on consecutive nights? And who inspects their vehicle at 2:30 a.m. to find a mysteriously flat tire? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, exactly 13 hours later, while his wife was being gunned down at the gate, he was supposedly fixing this tire. Not at 9 a.m., not at 10 a.m., not at 11 a.m., but precisely when the shooting happened. Is this just ironic? Coincidental? Or calculated? For years, investigators had long suspected Omar in the 2008 murder of his girlfriend Angela Aguar, who who was gunned down shortly after taking out a $1 million life insurance policy naming Omar and her 17-year-old son Elijah as beneficiaries. Though both authorities and insurers were suspicious of Omar, after he sued the company, they settled, giving him $400,000 and her son $600,000. A decade later, Omar Kymore tried the same scheme, thinking it had worked so well before. But unlike then, this time he wasn't so lucky. Now authorities have reopened Angela's case and he'll finally face those charges too. Simone's brutal murder has shattered her family. Her mother's heartbreaking court testimony revealed how deeply this tragedy affected everyone, especially Simone's children. Her daughter, now 14, who was 8 when it happened, carries undeserved guilt. My husband and I are devastated, and her kids. Her son has developed alopecia. Our other son got discharged from the U.S. Air Force due to trauma-induced depression. Odin bottles up his emotions, but we know he's hurting inside. They're all in counseling, down from twice to once weekly. After 6 long years, justice has finally been served.
Well, I am satisfied with the sentence that was just handed down. Personally, I must say the judge really did a good job. He was very thorough in his sentencing. He explained everything, why he gave this amount and why he subtract that amount, and that was very good. He was very thorough. And I want to just say thanks to the public who support us, in prayers and, all the support they gave us. Also to the churches, the adjacent churches and my church, all the people from the church who would give all their support and prayers. Also to the police officers who's in charge, like the MID office, the Constant Springs CIB office, the Central CIB office, all those people, I must say a big thanks. They did a tremendous job. I must say the justice system worked. If you give it a chance, as my husband said, they done.
Omar, who was born in Barbados and later gaining U.S. and Jamaican citizenship, had it all: money, successful businesses. If he truly wanted out to be with his mistress, divorce was an option. But greed consumed him. He wasn't satisfied with just leaving Simone. He wanted a piece of her $100 million Jamaican dollar life insurance policy, which named him and their children as beneficiaries. Now Omar Kymore got exactly what he deserved. He'll never deceive or murder another woman. One can only imagine Simone's terror during those final moments, enduring 19 bullets tearing through her body. Yet from this horrific tragedy comes one small comfort: Angela's family will finally see justice. She was gunned down on a Fort Lauderdale street at 3:30 a.m. on June 30, 2008, while heading downtown with Omar to meet friends. At 38, she died while Omar was just 25. Though always suspected, he escaped charges, emboldening him to strike again. May Simone's beautiful soul rest peacefully, and may her family find strength in remembering the amazing person she was. May taxi driver Winston's soul also find peace, and his family continue believing in goodness despite this darkness. What would you have done if your husband, the man you deeply loved, abandoned you, ignored your pleas to return, yet kept asking about your insurance and daily schedule? Think about it. Thank you for watching another video. If you appreciate the way we bring you these stories, or if you learned something new today, please like this video and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. As always, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section below. Your experiences or advice may resonate with someone else. We'll be back soon with another story. Until then, take care and goodbye for now.